Today, every day, small cap investors visit Agoracom knowing this is the day to discover the world's next great company, to have their dreams come true. That's why I take to the open road, to find them, to tell their stories, to engage them, to bring them to life, because they want to connect with you from your office, your phone, your home, anywhere. Agoracom, find your dream.
Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap companies and their executives about big, important news. The news today has come out of Affinity Metals. With us is Rob Edwards. He's the CEO of the company. They trade on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol AFF. With us, his guest, Ronnie Sturfula. He's the managing partner of Incrementum in Liechtenstein, and he's joined the advisory board as a founding member. Why is that important? Someone of Ronnie's stature, amongst the many things that he's done, many accomplishments, and we can't list them all. Probably his most important and relevant to this conversation is that he's the publisher of the Gold Report, which has now become the gold standard of gold research. That was from the Wall Street Journal. Why? More than 1.8 million downloads, and this annual study is one of the most widely followed publications on gold. It's published in English, German, and Mandarin. And now he's part of the Affinity Metals team. Ronnie, Rob, welcome to the show.
Thanks, George.
Thank you very much, George. Glad being invited to the show, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Well, we're glad to have you because, you know, we're having a nice time here on this call, but the fact of the matter is you've got just a great resume in terms of accomplishments in the gold space and what and how your stature in terms of your newsletter. So let me ask you a question. Affinity Metals is a relatively new company. They've got a fantastic project. They've got the Regal silver mine that had a feasibility review done back in the 70s with a massive resource there that still has to be brought to 43101 standards. But, what is it about Affinity Metals that gave you the confidence to join and be the founding member of the advisory group?
I think it ticks all of the boxes that I'm looking for when I'm evaluating junior mining company, and of course, I mean, this is an untold story. We're very, very early in the game, but I've met the team and primarily Rob, Darren, but also Sean Parnell through my work for Tudor Gold. So just a brief introduction why the circle is kind of closing for me. I always enjoyed investing in small cap stocks, and I bought my first stocks when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
I went through the dot-com boom. Studied at university, didn't learn too much about markets at university, but worked as on the trading desk in credit derivatives besides my studies. And then I started at Erste Group in 2006 and analyzed international equities and was responsible for asset allocation. And a gentleman, a friend of mine, he told me, you should invest in this small stock. It's called Osisko Exploration. And Osisko Exploration, as you know, nowadays, Osisko Mining, and of course the Malartic project, it was bought out by Agnico and Yamana. It is one of the largest gold mines in Canada, and of course it wasn't just due to my analytical skills. I was also lucky, but actually the reason why I started writing about gold was my investment in Osisko. And a gentleman called Walter Storm was the co-founder and also the financier of Osisko back then. And I was always very, very glad that I'm very, very happy about this story, and always thought, okay, I'm kind of owing the team of Walter Storm, and he approached me a couple of years ago and said, you know, now I'm slightly above 80 years old, but I want to start a new project. And I had a look at it, and Tudor Gold actually also ticked most of the boxes that I'm looking for. So I became an advisor for Tudor Gold, and I met the gentleman at American Creek Resources, especially Rob and Darren, because they're a joint venture partner in the Treaty Creek project. And Treaty Creek, as you know, a gentleman called Eric Sprott just recently said on a podcast, this might be a 15 to 20 million ounces deposit.
Right.
So it is significant. It was very, very early stage when I joined Tudor, and now I've got a very good feeling that the team, but also the property with large brownfield and greenfield potential, the tight shareholder structure, and the fact that now everything is really lining up very, very well, and everybody has made their homework. I think that makes me extremely confident regarding Affinity Metals, and this is why I decided to join the advisory board.
And if I can quote you from the press release, you actually say, and I'm reading this, Affinity is now one of the largest investments in my private portfolio, and I'm going to do my very best to get the word out. So first of all, that's a pretty big endorsement. That is one of the biggest investments in your private portfolio. Tell us about the kind of, how you get the word out in your world, and is it through your newsletter, through your contacts, and what's the story you're going to be telling your people about Affinity?
Well, I'm writing this In Gold We Trust report. This is how it looks like. It's available for free on our webpage, and we're writing it for 13 years now. Actually, it was always some sort of a therapy for me, because I'm reading quite a lot about gold, about monetary history. I'm talking to people from all over the globe about gold, about the monetary system. So for me, it was always, I was trying to distill all the thoughts and ideas that I had in this In Gold We Trust report. And nowadays, it is obviously one of the most widely followed publications on gold. We're a big team now with 15 members working on this In Gold We Trust report. And of course, through my work and through all the keynote speeches that I'm delivering at big international conferences all over the globe, I think I know the investment community very well. And I think that through my work, I gained quite a lot of trust in the investment community. Therefore, I'm really, really picky when it comes to such advisory roles. And basically, I am seeing myself as some sort of a sparring partner. I try to communicate and help the team with capital market things, how to get the word out, perhaps make introductions and so on, and basically tell people, well, this is a hidden gem. It's an untold story. It is very early on. Of course, there is significant risk, but there's also significant upside. And as I've said, it's one of my biggest private investments. So I really got skin in the game, and that's what it basically should be about.
Rob, what does it mean to you that you and Darren and your team kind of brought Affinity to life just a few months ago? You took all the time to clean up the stock, assemble the land package, do all this. So it's not as if Affinity is this well-known story and it's got its legs and off and running. What does it mean to you to have someone like Ronnie be a founding member of your advisory board and give you a global presence here in October already?
Yeah, we spent some time getting Affinity rolling, as we've talked about here on the show before. But we started talking with Ronnie. It's probably been a year ago, and we've started to have some good discussions about things, about the gold market. We've always read his In Gold We Trust report. We've read that for a number of years, and we're always very, very impressed with the credibility and the research and the depth that report holds. I really do think it's one of the best gold reports that anyone can look at out there in the market today. So when we had the opportunity to meet with him and start to discuss this new venture with Ronnie, we were really looking down the road as to when Affinity would start to need some of that exposure, and wait for the we're waiting for the gold market to improve. And I'm sure at times Ronnie thought, are these guys going to get rolling with this or not? And we kept that relationship building. And now to have him as the founding member of our advisory board, we're extremely grateful that he's accepted that. His contacts, his background, his knowledge of the capital markets, I think it's really a stepping stone for Affinity to be recognized and to have that story told, and to put us on the map, so to speak. We're really excited about it.
Hey, Ronnie, I'm sad to say, but it's going to change after today, that I'm one of the few people on the planet that hasn't read In Gold We Trust. So I'm going to make sure I go download it and read the latest edition. But is it safe to assume that no matter how good the boxes have checked for Affinity Metals, you wouldn't be joining the advisory board and you wouldn't make it one of your largest investments if you were bearish on where gold and silver and precious metals were going? So can you give everyone an outlook perhaps on where you think gold and precious metals are going in the short, medium, and long term?
I mean, in a nutshell, my conclusion is we're back in a bull market. As easy as that. And I think people tend to forget that in many currencies, we're already in a bull market for more than 3 years. So gold is trading at new all-time highs in Canadian dollar terms, in Australian dollar terms, in euro terms. It is trading at all-time highs actually in 70 currencies. But everybody is just staring at the dollar price of gold. Now we have seen this massive impulsive breakout after a resistance zone at 1360, 1380. We went up to 1580. Now it came back a bit, but we're seeing that actually it should consolidate even a bit more. But the fact that there's so much capital waiting on the sidelines and waiting to buy into this correction is a very positive sign. And from my conversations with large institutional players, it seems that everybody has gold on their watch lists again, that everybody sees, of course, the macro risks with all those huge monetary experiments that we're seeing, negative interest
negative
rates,
yields.
negative yields, the debt burden that we're having, also political issues, geopolitical threats, and so on. So actually, this is the macro environment that we're describing on those more than 360 pages. So George, you probably have to take 1 or 2 days off to read through the report, but it's going to be worth the time, hopefully. So
well, the Wall Street Journal themselves calls you the gold standard, your report, the gold standard of gold research. So taking a day or two off to read through it is probably an amazing use of my time, given what I'm going to learn. I'm okay with that.
Thanks. No, so in a nutshell, we're in a bull market. We're very early on. This party has only just begun. I think that gold will become a core investment for generalists again. We shouldn't forget that those large institutional players, wealth managers, they aren't invested at all. And gold is, and we're explaining and analyzing that in our research. We wrote more than 3,000 pages of research about gold, and it is a very reliable hedge in times of rising inflation, in times of recessions, and also in times of stock market corrections or turmoil. So if you say, okay, there's at least some risk for one of those 3 things to happen going forward, perhaps even more, 2 or 3, then you should at least own some gold. And in the mining space, we have seen a big consolidation in the last couple of years. We have seen that what Schumpeter would have called a creative destruction happening. So I think that many companies really consolidated, got their balance sheets under control, wrote off projects, and now we're seeing more and more interest for smaller companies again, for more exploration activity. And I think that risk capital is coming back into the market. So I think the timing couldn't be better to consider stocks, in the smaller cap space.
You have something called your 3 bullet points concept. If you could tell us about that, and how does it apply to Affinity?
Well, first of all, it's about management. I think that management is key. I really prefer having a medium project with terrific management than the other way around, because there's quite a lot of things that you can screw up with in a mining space. So really management is key, and I'm very, very confident that Affinity has a fantastic management. Then, of course, it's the shareholder structure. 85% of the company is held by basically people that are involved with the company, by insiders. It's very, very tight, and I appreciate the fact that actually Darren, Rob, and the whole team, first they did their homeworks, and now only after everything is finished, they're starting with the marketing. Often it's other way around. So, I've got 3 kids, and I always tell them, you've got to do your homework first, and then you can go out and play. So I really like the fact that they did a tremendous job in the last couple of years, and now we're trying to get the word out. And the third thing, of course, is the exploration potential. I'm seeing a property that is largely underexplored. We're seeing that in the area there are several former mines. We're seeing that the last assays, basically from the grab samples, were fantastic. I mean, most of them, I think, were reached the over limits, and I think that with the drill program that will be done in the next couple of weeks and in the next couple of years, I think this really has the potential to become one of the biggest stories out there, because, as I've said, it's largely underexplored. There's great potential. We are having this airborne geophysics by North Haven Resources that is very, very valuable from my point of view. Yep. So we should expect some really, really decent news flow.
Hey Rob, I just want to touch briefly, because we're gonna have an interview separate on this matter. But you did get assay results for all 22 of your rock samples collected in September 2019, and I just want you to tell us in general, because you say here the majority contained bonanza grade silver, zinc, and lead, with many samples reaching assay over limits, which Ronnie just reached. So without going into the details, just big picture, how happy are you with what came back?
Yeah, well, first of all, I better say thanks to Ronnie for the kind words about management. We've been through a lot with our role as American Creek, and we've been the gold market's a tough business, and so some of that experience that we've gained along the way will really benefit Affinity. And that's one of the things that we've decided to do is, put our company together, put the fundamentals together first, and then we can go out and tell people about it. And Ronnie's part of those fundamentals that we've put together, and having him is part of that story that we can tell people. As far as the geology goes, I actually had a chance to go out to the property here a couple weeks ago and see where these grab samples came from.
All right.
We're really excited about it because the property is very, very mineralized, and when you get that kind of mineralization showing up on the property, it shows how much promise is there. I mean, we didn't have to look very hard for this stuff. It's sitting there. We can follow it in the structures and in the veins that we're seeing on surface, and that's what we're chasing with the drill as well. And so when you start to see all of those things come together, as far as correlation between grab samples and great assays there, and starting to see what the core is looking like, and having that be in similar host rock and similar structure, we're really excited about what the property has as far as geological potential. And we knew that from the surveys, we knew that from the historical data, we knew that from the past resource that's on it. But it's nice to see it followed up in the actual samples, nice to see it being followed up with the drill, and we're excited to see what those results come back with when we send all that drill core in for assay.
Yeah, and I can't wait to come back on the next interview and talk about assays that have gone over limits. You don't see that very often, so it's kind of like a cliffhanger for everyone for the next one. Hey, Ronnie, you're the first appointment to the board, first almost founding member of the advisory board. So by inference, first means and founder means there are going to be others come along. Can you talk to us about, what you know about the advisory board and the kind of people, I don't think you have specifically, the kind of people that you think are going to be attracted, or you may already know will be attracted to join the advisory board of Affinity Metals?
Well, I mean, it's obvious that when I'm the founding member, that should mean that there's gonna be other gentlemen, also ladies, joining me. I think we cannot disclose yet who's it's gonna be. It won't be Beyonce Knowles, it won't be Donald Trump, but it will probably be somebody who's really well known and well connected in the mining space, and who fits to the whole team, who can help us, with contacts, with expertise. But yeah, I mean, you gotta be patient. I think that Rob, Darren, and the whole team are working on that already.
George, let me comment on that. I think
Sure.
you see by the quality that we've got in Ronnie, as far as his background and his his personality, and the contacts that he has in the gold world. We're looking to surround ourselves with people that are, well, smarter than we are, and I think we've done that to start with Ronnie. It's always good you surround yourself with people that are the kind of people that you want to be and that you want to have success with. And so that's a general category for the kind of people that we want on the board and that we expect to attract. So.
Well, Rob, most certainly things seem to be lining up, because as I alluded to, and then you gave specifics about, you guys took a while to kind of put Affinity together, clean certain things up, get it to this stage. And for people watching at home who may have forgotten or don't know, the property had a feasibility review done in 1971, is developed. I'm going to read this off here. And you could have put Regal into production at $1.75 an ounce of silver on a reserve of 590,000 tons, grading 71.6 grams silver, 2.66 lead, 1.2% zinc, so on and so forth. Needs to be updated with the current 43-101, we know that. But the fact that you're able to put the team together, the project together, and now you bring on the likes of Ronald Sturferla here, that says a lot about third-party validation about where Affinity Metals is going.
Yeah, we really like where we're headed with this. Again, the fundamentals that we've put together, this property continues to excite us more and more as we do more work. This exploration season, all I can tell you is it's going to be a long winter. We'd love to have had more time on this property to get things moving. It's exciting. There's so much to see. We've actually expanded the property again. We mentioned that in a press release before, but we're up over 8,000 hectares. It's got so much going on and so much potential. And now to have, Ronnie with us on the advisory board, to tell people about the story, to help them understand that even though we're at an early stage, we have so much potential and so much work done on the property. Our property really isn't as early stage as many early companies like us have.
Right.
We're really encouraged to have all the pieces coming together, to have Ronnie with us, and to have the gold market cooperating. And we're looking forward to the upside here.
Ronnie, last words are to you, because you're a guest of honor, and it's been great having you here from Europe on this call. That's fantastic. If you don't tell us what you're hoping to see. We're in October of 2019 here, so instead of saying 12 months, let's say the end of 2020. Tell me where you're hoping to see Affinity Metals, and also tell us where you're hoping to see, or where you're thinking, because you don't hope, you actually analyze and do your homework, where you're thinking gold and silver prices are at the end of 2020.
Well, I absolutely hope that Yeah. I obviously hope that the share price for Affinity is gonna be significantly higher. But what's more important for me is that the drill results will be in line with our expectations. That the corporate work continues as successful as in the last couple of months, and that we basically achieve all the milestones that we've put in. For gold and silver, as I've said before, I think we're in a bull market, and this party has only begun. So end of 2020, I mean, we might go to 750, 1800 pretty easily. We know it's an election year in the US next year. Normally the US dollar is pretty weak in an election year. We've got quite a lot of catalysts. Our inflation signal, for example, just switched to 100% rising inflation model, which we haven't seen for many quarters. So inflation might become a concern in the next couple of months. We're seeing that the stock markets are actually quite shaky. We're seeing that central banks are getting more and more desperate now, also talking about things like MMT, somebody called it Mugabe Maduro theory, talking about, you know, negative interest rates, talking about helicopter money, QE for the people, you name it. So I think the environment for gold is pretty good. I think that going forward, silver should outperform gold like it normally does in the course of a bull market in gold. So I expect a falling gold-silver ratio, and that's a pretty good setup, I think, and actually a setup that we've been waiting for quite a long time now.
Well, you heard it here first. You heard it directly from Ronnie Sturfele. He's the managing partner of Liechtenstein-based asset manager Incrementum, and you heard it from Rob Edwards. The rest is up to you now, to your due diligence. Get to Agoracom, look up Affinity Metals, take a look at previous interviews we've already done with Rob and the profile information there, and then make your way over to the Affinity Metals website and do more of your due diligence. Because when you got someone like Ronnie Sturfele joining the advisory board, and as we said earlier, the Wall Street Journal once wrote that his gold report in Gold We Trust is the gold standard of gold research. That's the kind of third-party validation. You know, on Agoracom, we've always said it's not enough for a CEO just to say they've got a great company, because that's what you expect all small-cap CEOs to say, for that matter. Third-party validation is very important, that third-party credibility, and that's what Ronnie brings, and we're looking forward to who else might be joining the advisory board in the near future. But gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us for today. Everyone at home, thanks so much for joining us. Do your due diligence. See you next time.
Thanks, guys.